What's the most ridiculous dating preference you've heard of? My friend claims to only want to date Japanese girls, despite not living in Japan or any community with a Japanese population. Furthermore, he has never even met a Japanese girl. His opinion is based solely on watching anime. Dude wanted a Japanese woman who spoke Spanish and cooked Mexican food. A woman I knew mentioned she was looking for a man who made at least $500,000 a year and was also an artist type and not a workaholic. I was like, I think those items are in conflict, sweet thing. A buddy of mine said he only wanted to date Korean girls. One of our mutual friends at college tried to set him up with her roommate, who was an exchange student from Korea. The next day she asked him if they were gonna see each other again and he said no, she didn't fit his standards. Turns out the only Korean women he wanted were K-pop idols. Not the most ridiculous, but I got a good laugh when my friend said he wanted to set his dating profile to exclude girls with small dogs that can't breathe well. I heard about someone who refused to date anyone who didn't have at least 10 houseplants. Met a woman who confessed her hobby restoring old cars repulsed most men because not a feminine activity. Au contraire, I thought it was attractive as hell, and we had lengthy conversations where I did some researches, asked questions, listened her talk about her, ended our exchanges when I casually told her I wasn't proficient with tools and tinkering outside computers, her justification being a manly man knows how to use tools. I work with someone who only wants to marry someone from her church. Not her faith, her physical church of 20 people. A kid I worked with said that he wanted to date someone who was physically fit, worked out at the same gym, had a certain style hair, drove, lived by herself, and there was a whole host of other preferences. We did the maths, and there were roughly 5 people in town who met that list. I once heard someone insist their date must have the same brand of toothpaste preference. Like, seriously? It's about compatibility, not dental hygiene uniformity. I dated a girl who full out admitted that she was dating me to look progressive. Girl I knew only dated guys with trucks, due to masculinity. Straight up said she couldn't take a guy who drove a woman's car seriously to do a man's role in her life. Guy she wound up with was shorter than average, small and scrawny, worked an office job, and was pretty much the opposite of the big burly masculine type, but he drove a truck. I found that so odd. I flip cars, so what I drive can change on a daily basis. I can't imagine that being a deal breaker for someone. All these tradcon dudes want a woman to be a virginal and demure, saving herself for marriage. However, as soon as you start dating them, they immediately want the woman to start putting out. Some girl on TikTok was talking about this guy she met who only dated women with lip filler? Because he believed that meant they had money, smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, smiley face. Having an active social media, people tell me that my choice not to use social media was a huge red flag, but in reality I got rid of my accounts because they were making me miserable. I got rid of my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter accounts 2 years ago, and have been noticeably happier ever since. I once knew a woman who wouldn't date a guy because the back of his head was too flat. Someone I know said he wouldn't date me because I dated other people. He called me also got his best friend's ex-girlfriend pregnant. In a basement. When his best friend was upstairs, woman shrugging. Specific race, specific piercing, fat ass, short curly bouncy hair, freckles, must have athletic fit body, no social media, no Twitch YouTuber, no guy friends, but he can have girls that are friends. I can go on and on. You must be okay with hypocritical views, double standards for him. I'm not making this shit up. Dude thinking there's some build-a-bitch workshop out there. This is a friend of mine's preference and I'll say it in her own words. A tall Asian guy who has a black guy's physique who's also great at dancing reggaeton and bachata. My wife's best friend doesn't last long in relationships because she's waiting for the perfect man to come along. Perfect features, makes good money, treats her like a queen. No flaws whatsoever. She's living in a fairy tale. Those people of either sex, who bring absolutely nothing to the table in terms of looks, personality, finances, grooming or hygiene, but then insist they're entitled to only the top 0.001 of partners. Matched with someone on Bumble, she asked my Myers-Briggs personality type. I told her it was ENTP, and asked unmatched. Honestly not even mad. Gotta respect the hustle. He needs to be so hot that I feel physically sick with how badly I want him whenever I look at him. There's just no other way I could go out with someone. She was a junior doctor, and a friend of I last saw her, her boyfriend was a 6'2" model. Because of the facial scarring from a knife fight with a rival drug dealer. He hadn't finished school or done any other kind of work and came from a really rough background. He'd been scouted and modeling was the big break that was going to lift his family out of poverty. But then he got into a fight and it was over before he was even. Now he was unemployed and spending his days sitting around in their flat that she paid for, smoking weed that she paid for with his mates, talking about the hip-hop demo they were going to seriously start working on any day now, which she would have to pay for. He was really crazy attractive, but she would show up at my friend's door in floods of tears a couple of times a month over him, and they seemed to spend all the time together when they weren't actually fucking, just screaming at each other. I don't know if she actually liked him as a person at all, but he was really hot. And a couple of guys who always complained about girls not being interested in short guys, yet would never consider dating someone even slightly taller than them. Embarrassed smiley face. One who is looking for a partner to function as a means to an end has ridiculous dating preferences. Literally heard a woman say to me that her ex-boyfriend was too nice for her and I'd be too nice for her, and that she'd need an asshole to keep her in line. She'd never date anyone who she'd be friends with. She later came out as a lesbian and has only been with women since the past 11 years. I don't think it's actually that abnormal, but I had a friend in the Air Force whose only qualification in a partner was how gigantic her tits were. Not like big, but absolutely colossal. He'd have dated Kathy Bates from Misery if her boobs were F-cups. A girl who broke up with a guy because he didn't read the Bible enough. He read it once a day but she reads it 3 times a day. I told her I wasn't a Haruki Murakami fan. She said that was a deal breaker. A male friend who dates much younger women who are high maintenance. I know it's very common, but the dynamic is disturbing. He gets to use her for arm candy, and she gets to use him for money. A dynamic made in hell. Used to be friends with someone who wouldn't date over 30 when he was like 32, 33. He was with a woman nearly 40 purely because she let him come in her, but then set his sights on a girl at his supermarket job who was freshly 21, then another who was S. Just one reason I stopped talking to him. A GF's friend wants her date to send her money beforehand, so she can get her hair, nails done. Then sent her a ride from her house and pay for her. Claims my presence is a blessing to men. She is 28. She's single for the past 3 years and still trying to find a good man. I wonder where all the good men are. My family friend was an immigrant who desired for their daughter to go out with a man from Vietnam. I had never met another Vietnamese family until they were. Our home was in a rural area of Maine. A friend coworker who required men she dated to be at least 6'2", black, intelligent, handsome, holding a good job, chill. After being told after a few dates that she had herpes, never late to a date even 5 minutes, because that's disrespectful of her time, always pays for dates, always responds to her texts the same day, and visits her in the hospital even if she's only there overnight. They've only been on a few dates, and he has to work and has pre-existing obligations. She had a zero-tolerance policy for anyone who failed any of these requirements. In essence, they had to treat her like she was just about the most important thing, and there's some reason she found it hard to find a man to go on more than 2 or 3 dates with. These people that refuse to date other obese people while simultaneously claiming that being larger is more sexually appealing. A guy that is into older women, and by older I mean much older, like their last dating experience older,